Yo guys, it's Julian here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a question I get asked a lot, which is how to turn your 8 or 16 or even 4-bar loops into finished songs. And the thing is, on this channel, I feel like I kind of highlight sort of like loops. Like a lot of my videos are kind of based around loops, and it's because that's the most effective way for me to really show you a lot of these techniques that I'm trying to show you. But a very important thing is also knowing how to arrange your tracks. So today I'm going to be showing you some techniques that I like to use when I'm stuck, or even just to come up with ideas even when I'm not stuck. Like even if I have a million other ideas, I still like to try some of these techniques just to sort of, get a different feel to it. So what I have here in front of me is this loop. It's from my video the other day, actually, the Fortet tutorial. So you guys may have seen it. It's probably in the recommended videos if you haven't. But yeah, this is what it sounds like. This is a pretty cool loop, but obviously that's all it is. It's just an 8-bar loop. So I'm going to take this and try to do some things with it. So the first technique that I like to follow is to just sort of force start it. And what I mean by this is sometimes when you have a loop, you like to spend a lot of time like thinking about how you're going to arrange it, or kind of like just conceptualizing, I guess. Like, yeah, just trying to think about like ideas. But the goal with this technique is to just stop thinking, like just force start it. So what I'll usually do is, like, if I have a loop like this, which is just in the first 8 bars of my project file, I'll just select it and cut it like that, and then we'll just paste it over here at bar 49. So like this gives us a lot of time in the beginning basically to just kind of set things up. So then after that, I'll just grab like 1 or 2 of the elements and just kind of put them at the start. Like it doesn't even matter which ones they are. Like here, for example, we can take this steel drum drone and this little chord thing. And let's say the song just starts with that. That would honestly be kind of cool. And like from there, this is kind of giving me a few ideas. Just by taking those and putting them at the start, like I'm already getting a few ideas. Like for example, we could take the bass after maybe like 8 bars. And copy that, and then it would just be like we could have the bass just play the root note. Like something like that. But you see, like once I just said, okay, I'm just gonna take this and start turning it into something, it turned into something. Like I'm already having ideas, I'm already getting inspired, and really, I know where this is going now. So definitely force starting it is a really good one. And another technique I like to use is starting with the drums. So if I get rid of these, so like I was saying, like if we have our loop over here and we have all our stuff kind of laid out, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just grab the drums and just put those like at the start. And it's kind of a similar technique to the last one. Like I'll take it and maybe we'll have it be like in the first 8 bars, I'll cut out some of these. Let's just mute this effects drums thing. But yeah, so like in the first 8 bars, I'll take out this shaker and the hi-hat, and then we'll just have these. And then in the second 8 bars, then those will come in. And it's like pretty similar to that last one. Like now I'm having some ideas. Like, okay, for example, in the start, I could bring in the steel drum. And then in this part, this ambient thing can come in. Like, yeah, this is just a really good way to come up with ideas as well, because oftentimes if you're making, like, dance tracks, which I do talk about dance music a lot on this channel, or even if you're not making dance music, like, just any kind of music, starting with the drums is kind of a cool thing. Like, it's a little bit unorthodox, right? Because music is so focused on melody and harmony, and rhythm is very important as well, but it's kind of more used as a way to, like, accentuate those things. So when you start with the rhythm, you're kind of just giving yourself a different perspective and, like, opening up your mind, and, like, that's really what this kind of all comes down to. Like, you'll find all of these techniques really come down to one main idea, which is, again, opening your mind and just trying to get out of the box and just do things you wouldn't normally do. So, yeah, starting with the drums definitely helps. Another technique I like to take is to just sort of listen and, like, identify the main things. So, like, if we listen to this, you're always going to have sort of, like, your main focal points and then things that are in the background that are complementing your main focal point. If your tracks are produced correctly, which I assume, yeah, they probably are. But yeah, so like here, for example, I would say the main things that I'm hearing are like this. And then the vocal, this little vocal thing. And then like the bass line. So what we can do is, let's say we'll take these, like we'll start with a break, for example. Like let's say the break would be happening here at bar 25. So we'll start with these, and I'll just copy those over. And then that sounds good for that part. Maybe, obviously, we'll add more stuff there, but for now that works. And then maybe in this part, the bass will come. And then after that, we can kind of have these things come. These other drones. And yeah, like you can see, like already we're starting to fill this out. And obviously, this isn't near finished yet, but the goal here actually isn't to necessarily get near finished. It's just to get you out of the box of what you've been doing that may or may not be getting you stuck making just like 8-bar loops. So yeah, definitely, like if you just kind of pay attention to it and identify what your main things are, it'll make a little bit more sense, like how you can arrange those and how you can kind of like set up the track to complement those. So then another thing I would recommend is automation. And I've actually done this a little bit here. But what I mean by this is basically automation is a really good way to bring your sounds to life, because what you're doing is essentially taking a sound that people are already hearing throughout the track and adding something to it that makes it a little bit different in whichever part the automation is happening. So what I've done here on this vocal drone, and I've done it in like a short 8-bar loop sense, I'm going to make it longer and more kind of thought out. Now that this is a little bit longer. But yeah, what I've done here is you can see I have echo, and it's on this really kind of fast delay time. Like we have dotted 30-second notes. So yeah, pretty fast. It's really just like a metallic kind of like overtone for the sound. But what I did was I automated this dry wet to come up. Just a dry wet, and it just comes in and out there. And you can hear what's happening is that's kind of like making the sound sort of like evolve and like morph a little bit, and like it's washing it out. And yeah, it's just, again, adding like a different flavor to the sound that you've already been hearing throughout the track that's already been established. I think very often, especially like beginners, I've noticed, are just people who have heard kind of the same general advice, like add new stuff, add new stuff. A lot of times that ends up with people making these tracks where they just kind of end up being like a little bit disjointed. Like you don't really have a main element because there's just so many new things happening at different times. And that's not always, but I have definitely run into that a lot. And yeah, so automating things as opposed to always adding new things is a really good way to counteract that. So like here, what I would do now, basically this automation is only happening in an 8-bar loop. You can see it just keeps repeating. So what I would do now is I would just take this and just get rid of some of these points. Like it's really, really simple. You would just go through and like, yeah, we'll just basically make this about half as dense with automation, if that makes any sense. But you can see once I do that, we get a pretty cool thing going here. Because now we have this thing, it's slowly automating over the course of the track. And yeah, again, it just keeps kind of like evolving and changing. And this is really what you want, especially if you're trying to make like more kind of organic stuff, which I know a lot of you guys are. Like, I definitely recommend trying to find ways to make your sound sort of like morph and evolve as opposed to always adding new things. And if you're working with a synth, like this is a sample in a granular synth, so there's only so much we can do. But if you're working with a synth, there are actually a lot of options for this too. Like if I want to do something similar with the bass, like for example, I used operator for this bass, so we can maybe automate the second, like stuff like that, or we could automate the saturator here. You know, there's really a lot that can be done. Like, if you're working with a synth, this is an especially good technique. Now, another thing that I want to talk about here are reference tracks. So, what a reference track is, if you don't know, it's just basically a track, like any kind of like finished song, like that you put in your project file, essentially, and just use it as a reference, like for the mix and for the arrangement and for just all those kinds of things, the mastering. So what I usually do to do this is I'll just grab a track, like I'll just grab one of my own off my desktop here. Like let's just grab this one. And then what I do is, yeah, just get it in here, you know, get it synced with the BPM. And then once that's going, what you can do is you can kind of look at this and see like all these different kind of parts. And then what you can do is you can use that to see like where you want your arrangement to go. And you don't have to perfectly copy it. What I usually end up doing is I'll bring a reference track in and start out by copying it. Like start out by not copying the song, but just following the same arrangement, like the same order of things essentially. And then what ends up happening usually is by the end of the track, like by the time I'm done working on it, it ends up being something completely different. Like I end up changing certain things or changing even just like one or two small things that really make the difference, and you wouldn't even know that I was listening to another track while working on it. But again, it just gives you so much like help, like as far as hearing like a really solid mix and hearing the arrangement and all that kind of stuff. You really get a feel for things. And I think actually that if more beginners used reference tracks, they would have a lot more, they have an easier time kind of finishing tracks as well as just making better tracks. Like it just really, yeah, I really can't recommend this technique enough. And again, it's not like plagiarizing. Like the arrangement of a song, I mean, especially if you're working with dance music, the arrangement of a song is almost more kind of like a utility. Like you're almost kind of just using it with that style of music to make it fit with like a DJ set and make it fit with other tracks and stuff. But even if you're not making dance music, like even if you're making something a little bit more sort of underground like this, or just more kind of like weird, like yeah, again, the reference track can just really help you kind of get where you're going. So that's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to sort of use this little 8-bar loop I had and show you how to turn loops into full tracks, because I got a lot of questions about that. And yeah, I thought I would help you guys out. So that's pretty much it for this one. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Yeah, let me know, because I want to do more videos like this, like kind of different stuff. Like I know I do a lot of this sort of just artist-based tutorials, because that seems to be what you guys like to see from me. But if you guys like this, let me know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and like this video as well. You can check out my social media, which is on screen right now, as well as my sample packs and my Patreon, which are in the description. And yeah, thank you again, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another tutorial.